What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to Tuesday's episode of the podcast. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday's discussion. I'm on a campaign, so to speak, for more subscribers and listeners. So channel's doing really well. We have almost 300 listeners to the podcast. They download us between 500 and 600 times a month. Excellent. Thank you. Please continue to do that. The YouTube channel, I think we have about 210 subscribers. I would like to plus those numbers up. I want 500 by the end of the year if possible. So definitely check us out on YouTube. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
So if you're campaigning, before I get into the story, if you're campaigning for something, you need to promise to lower taxes, even though you know it's not realistic and you can't.
The show will continue to be free.
There you go. There
to listeners. I'm trying to get sponsors. Not free for you.
All right, everybody. This one's from WMAR2 News. And it's let me see here. Yep, WMAR2 News. I'm sorry. Johns Hopkins sued over May cybersecurity attack, right? So I think we even touched on this. If we didn't touch on it, I remember seeing the story. I can't remember. So Johns Hopkins, I know because my stepmother actually went there. So like when stuff pops up with that, I kind of pay attention to it. But Johns Hopkins University and the health system, they're being sued over a cybersecurity attack in May that affected their networks, right? So what ended up happening, they had the breach, PHI was exposed, PII was exposed, the PHI with the sensitive medical records, it had social security numbers, passport numbers, driver's license, financial account numbers, right? Because it's medical billing and things like that, right? So all those things were divulged back in May, and there was a class action lawsuit that was filed, right? And there's a federal district court of Maryland where they're addressing this. So the big reason behind this is that the person that started this lawsuit, they said it took them a month before they were notified, right, about the breach, right? It was a month after it happened before she got notified. And this is something we've talked about on the show, right? Like we've talked about these companies, like we talked about public trust, and we're talking about people being made aware sooner rather than later when these things happen, right? So you put your trust in a place to do what they're supposed to do, especially when they're dealing with PHI and PII, right? Like things that have a long-reaching effect, right? Your finances, your medical, you could be blackmailed for something, you know what I mean? Like say, especially up at Johns Hopkins, right? So like that being up in the Maryland area, right? You got politicians that could be going there for certain things. They could be blackmailed, right? That affects more than just that person. They have the reach to reach out to all these people, all these constituents, you know what I mean? That they're supposed to work for, right? But they're out here making decisions based on them not wanting bad publicity to get out there. Not saying that that's the case, right? But it's just one of the many things that can happen with this information getting out there. But the woman starting this class action lawsuit, again, she wasn't notified for a month, right? And she's saying, according to her, she's accusing them of intentionally, willfully, recklessly, or negligently failing to take and implement adequate and reasonable measures to ensure that plaintiffs and class members' information was safeguarded. So again, we want to make the assumption that that everybody is doing what they need to when it comes to protecting our information when we use their service, but that's not always the case, right? So them suing for this, I can understand why, right? Like, because everything that happens when it comes to, not everything, when it comes to these breaches, right? What ends up happening? We ended up getting the LifeLock or whatever it's called, right? That's what they always want to offer you. LifeLock, make sure nobody's using Social Security, blah, blah, blah. You're like, I already got that. Like, how are you making me whole again if for whatever reason my financial stuff gets out there, right? Like, it could have already happened, especially if you weren't notified for a month. Like there could have been things happening in the background already that you could not have been paying close enough attention to, or things of that nature, right? Somebody could have been pulling like $10 a week or something, you know what I mean, just to test, to make sure, they had an active account, and then all of a sudden, boom, they hit you for a couple of G's, you know what I mean? Like it's we gotta, I realize that we have to hold these companies accountable, but some of the stories we've gone into with this in the past as well, right? We want I want the government to step in a little bit, right? So we talked last week about the critical infrastructure aspect, right? Like government stepping in for critical infrastructure. This should probably be something that's included along those lines as well, right? Like you leave it to these private companies or hospitals or organizations to take care of these important things, and this is what happens, right? Because now who knows how long this court case is going to take, right? Like it's not like these are always fast when they do happen, but who knows how long it's going to take. And Johns Hopkins, to their credit, they're like, hey, we took immediate steps to take care of this, right? So if that was the case, then why is this woman saying she didn't get notified for a month, right? They're saying they're making available resources and tools to protect against possible identity theft or fraud, right? LifeLock, we're pretty sure that's what that is, right? And encourage members of our community to visit our websites for more information. So, but again, the damage is already done, right? Like, what were you not doing in the first place? And it's going to come out in court. Is the thing. It's going to come out in court that maybe, they had all this stuff hosted on what do you call it? Like a Windows Server, 2010 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, why did you have such an old operating system that isn't supported anymore, safeguarding this information? But we'll find out. It'll come out in court. But point being, they're being sued, and this is fairly quick that this lawsuit came up, right? Because that was only 3 months ago. Usually when you see these, like, it's like 9 months, a year down the line, they get their ducks in a row and then they start to sue. But this woman started this class action lawsuit. She's ahead of the ball. She's like, hey, y'all need to get on your money, and you're going to give me some. You can give us all some, right? Because it's class action, so it's more than her that's doing it. But Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So please remember to please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hate keep saying that. Like, they say you're supposed to say in the middle, but it feels so annoying. Like, people who already like, share, subscribe are hearing this as well. So if you want me to stop saying this, I need 500 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year.
And he promised
now it's
lower
ransom.
taxes.
Now it's ransom. No, so this all stems from the MoveIt transfer software. So it's a file transfer software that has far implications in the government, hospitals. It's all over the place, right? It's very widely used. We talked about it a few weeks ago, how there were some issues with it, and there was a breach in the federal government. And now you're starting to see the fallout from these private institutions as well. So I'm trying to use my words very clearly, because I've been watching the show with subtitles, and I noticed that they don't like me very well. So I'm trying to make sure I'm clear. So that's why I'm using I want to make sure it doesn't transcribe improperly. But with that being said, I think this will set up a precedent. Not precedent for more litigious. There you go, litigious legal battles down the road, only because we're seeing a lot more of this. And as a consultant, it kind of gives me a little bit of pain, because why did it take so long for them to identify it and then say something to people? And that's the crux of the lawsuit. It says that they were not notified quick enough, and we need you to upgrade your cybersecurity infrastructure, which is great. That part is great, but it's the notification, and that's that should be directly within their incident response plan, right? They should we have a breach. These people are notified internally. We have a plan to send it to PA, and then PA will push out a message in this time frame. And that has direct implications to this happening, and then it has direct implications into the business impact assessment as well. So now you're starting to see that if we do not release this information in time, or within a timely manner, we could potentially have lawsuits down the line, because people's information has been out long enough where they can reasonably say that they were unable to protect themselves because you took too long to notify them. So, like, even if it was quick for you, it was not quick enough for them. And now you're starting to see the ramifications of it. So and on top of it, not only is it it's the incident response plan, it's the BIA, but what about your disaster recovery plan? What does that look like, right? So it's a combination of several different things. And I'm sure John Hopkins, being as big as it is, they have a CISO who has an office, right? There's probably an office of people who work for that CISO and things of that nature. But as you can see, the documentation may not be up to snuff. So it may be, and I might be talking on my butt, right? I don't know. But for them to be able to even have any weight in court in this instance, they have to show doubt that, hey, they're not where they need to be. Their policies and procedures are not up to snuff. And because they are so high profile, like you said, it can impact congressmen and women. It can impact, the hundreds of thousands of people who have not necessarily being serviced directly by John Hopkins, but they have, I want to say tendrils, or they have side channels. They have a lot of impact in the medical field in general, right? So they're too big to be acting like this. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the problem, and that's what's going to have them in hot water.
So like you were mentioning, even if their IRP, like if their incident response plan was good and they did what they were supposed to, why did it take a month? Like if they have
right,
days,
there's a piece missing there. Like, what is that component? Like, is it that they just don't have it built out properly, or is it that their response timing is just too long? It's too long of a tail. So now you need to shorten it up by significantly to notify people so they can freeze their credit, or they can change their passwords, or what have you. Because I don't know if, like you said, like potentially they could have their information stolen. People can start, charging their accounts, things of the nature, because they have another piece. There could be extortion, like you said, with congressmen and women. Like, now I know that you have a pacemaker, or that you are unhealthy, or what have you. But then on top of it, it's people just opening credit in your name, right? So now somebody bought a boat. You have no idea until it's time for you to try to buy a house. And they're like, well, you already have $40,000 in unpaid debt for this mini yacht that you bought, right? So there's implications there that people needed time to protect themselves. You did not afford them that time. So we'll see what comes out of it. So I don't like people to be sued just because they have a big name. That's not. I'm definitely not pro that, and I think that should not happen as frequently as it does. But because you do have a big name, that makes you very open to people coming for your money. And now it's going to come down to your policy procedure. So I know their team is scrambling to show, like, hey, we recently revised this plan. This is our timelines, and these are reasonable, and yada yada yada. Here's the email train, because nobody wants to get in trouble, right? So you have to provide all the evidence, like, hey, we saw this breach at this time, we reported at this time, we notified, hires at this time, hires notified public affairs at this time, or whatever it's called on the civilian side. Like, I get terms crazy, but whatever that arm that notifies the public, we notify them at this time. Why did it take so long? Like, that's going to keep coming up. So I kind of feel bad for people, because I've had to run those drills in the military where it's just like, it's not my fault. Here's the chain of incidents that happen. And we're not even being sued for money, right? This is just somebody with enough stars on their chest that's upset. So now we have to prove all this information. I can only imagine what it's like when money is involved. So that's unfortunate. But again, this is like, they're going to be an example that is going to be taken to other big corporations and companies and things of that nature to fix their policies and programs. And that trickles down to the little people to also fix theirs. So there will be some good out of it, but I feel bad for the people who are in the direct impact. They're on the X when this happens. But we'll see. We'll keep you posted. Like, so this is not the first MoveIt byproduct that we've talked about, right? Like, I think this will continue to happen, because we've already talked about it in the federal government. Now we're seeing it in the private business as well, which I believe they're private. I haven't looked them up, but they're not federal government to my knowledge. So, but definitely continue to tune in. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We're doing really good on numbers. I like to increase those as well. Look for our Ask Us SPs. We've got another one dropping on the 30th, and then another one on August 6th. So definitely check those out. Hit us up by all the websites that go by our name. You get me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. Stay safe, stay secure.